All right. Tony's bio really quick. Tony Nettleman is a land surveying engineer who teaches surveying exam prep, education, and continuing education for attorneys and land surveyors, and is an expert witness in boundary, easement, and title disputes. Tony is a licensed attorney, professional surveyor, and mapper of PSM in Florida, registered professional land surveyor, RPLS in Texas, holds a PhD in geomatics, JD law degree, MS in geospatial surveying engineering, and a BS in surveying engineering. And Tony has a lot of NLC prep stuff, what you talk about on the exams. And also he has his Nettleman Consulting, which is what he plans to talk on about tonight, and kind of a three-step process. For those watching later, this will be three-part series, and Tony likes to do August and February and then next August. So this is going to drag out for part three. We won't get till August of 2025, but we'll start with the most important part, and that's the research aspect of it, right? So
Crazy.
I love it. I appreciate your time as always. I'm glad to be back, although it's only the one for this month, but we'll be back regularly again next month. So awesome. Appreciate your time, Tony.
Well, yeah, I appreciate you, Trent. Thank you for hosting this. This is such a gift because, there's really, no value to you except, the benefits of profession and having a webinar on a regular basis where you have really not a professional speaker, but just anybody come in and lecture is so nice because I don't really attend a lot of these live, but I watch them on YouTube all the time. And I'm always fascinated. The Aerotas was a great webinar. Emailed them for some advice a few months ago. And it's just so interesting because none of us can be experts in everything. So we have to get help from other people. And I've reached out to help to so many people. I mean, Landon Blake, I've talked with him for years.
Yep.
He's a systems guy. I like Landon because he has a system for everything. He has a template and a system in a video, and he's always uploading videos to his Redefined Horizons. And it's just like simple stuff like folder organizations and stuff. But I steal his stuff all the time and I ask him for help. So yeah, thank you, Trent, for doing this. So welcome everybody. I'm going to give you a thesis for the talk today, and I'm going to try to keep it as short as possible because this can just go on forever. But let me start off with this thesis, and then I'm going to explain my three-step process, and then give you a little bit of resources, and then we'll go into my template. So my thesis is, and let me do this slowly. Land surveyors are often focused on the fieldwork while not performing adequate record research beforehand, which leads in some circumstances to erroneous boundary determinations. So my thesis is you're not doing enough research because everyone is so excited to go to the field. All I want to do is go to the field, find some monuments, like an Easter egg hunt. You never know what's going to happen. Like we had some alligators that were covering a bunch of section corners a while back in Florida. I met a coyote in Houston in a suburb. I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff happens. I met a giant black guy with an AR-15 in Las Vegas. Remember, were you there, Trent?
Yes.
Yeah, Junior. Yeah, lots of very interesting, very fascinating people. I met a naked white guy. He was like 400 pounds in Florida, flying the drone, all kinds of cool stuff.
Wasn't me.
Yeah, yeah, he was a big guy. And I think, I don't even want to comment on that. But anyways, he was a funny guy. And that guy actually led me to like a dozen monuments. He owned the property. It's like, I will take you around on my John Deere tractor and I'll point out everything. And he saved us like 3 days worth of work. It was stupid. So field work is so much fun. You get to play with the toys, but the record research is an onerous process. It's frustrating. It takes time. It takes money. And the clients often do not understand why you're doing the record research, which makes it even more interesting. So at NLC, a properly conducted complete boundary survey is done in 3 phases. Phase 1 is the record research. Phase 2 is the field work. Phase 3 is the analysis of the data and making the report and the map. So record research speaks for itself. Stage 2 is the field work. We do static GPS, RTK, fly the drone to get some base imagery that's new and fresh, usually LiDAR scan it with the X7 to have a pretty picture where you can take it to court and fly around. That's always exciting. And I love the LiDAR because it's so big. Like I pick the biggest file, like max range, max fine. And I do that because I love discovery and I love giving it to the opposing counsel who, number one, doesn't have a hard drive big enough to fit like 500 gigabytes of stuff in a 2 acre. Like I'll go every 5 feet and just like scan crazy. Like, why not? You know, you paid money for this thing, you might as well enjoy it. But the other thing is the opposing counsel goes nuts and says, well, I can't open this file. Oh, well, I'm sorry, sir. Do you need to know what program it is? Yes. Okay, it's only $3,000. Here's the invoice I paid for it. But my favorite thing to say is talk to your surveyor. You know, you have an expert surveyor, give it to him. He'll open it for you. 100% guarantee they don't have the software because they're using technology from like 1970. They have a geodometer, you know, they're taking out there. So, you know, oh yeah, yes, sir. Talk to your expert. I'm sure he'll be able to help you. So yeah, load me up with field data. And then stage 3 is basically where you take the record data, you compare it to the field data. And I typically have, like I have a topographic dispute. I've got a topographic data set from 2008 I found from somewhere. I've got a topographic data set from the 3 surveyors all being sued. I've got my own topographic data set from the field data. So there's a lot of different stuff to compare. And to write the map and the report is really kind of the easy part because once it's all done, you just have to write it up and make it look nice. Now, each of these stages typically takes 30 days. 30 days. And if you want it done faster, it's double the cost. So typically I charge 25,000 for stage 1, 50 grand for stage 2, 25,000 for stage 3. That's for a small job like a residential or something. And if you want it done faster, it's double. And the reason I do that is because everyone is always in a rush and no one has time to wait. Well, if you don't have time to wait, then you need to pay extra because I can't drop everything and put you first. So you've got this 3-stage process. And I swear, I must tell this process to attorneys at least 3 times a week. I mean, I can almost recite this from like memory. I hear it in my dreams. Stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, the cost, the time, the double price, the fee sheet. And, you know, that's really a good thing because if you have this process and you have it documented, I don't have to do it. I can give a survey tech the stage 1 with a video and a template and a list of web links and say, go crazy. And then I can sit back and wait for the stage 1 stuff to roll in and then look it over myself. Am I at that point yet? No, I'm not, because I'm never really happy with my processes, but I'm determined to get stage 1 really well documented because someone else can do it instead of me. So hopefully this video you guys will have as a recording. I'll give you the template, whatever you want, and you guys can run stage 1 just like I do. Now, I'm going to premise this by saying that this is a linear process, 1, 2, 3, but I often step back, like I'll do stage 1, and then I'll do stage 2, and I'll think, that's weird. I found a few more boundary monuments that were not in my deed research. I better go back to the courthouse, do some more research, order some more title reports, go back to the field for a second time, and then process everything and write the report. So I'm often displeased with the conclusion of stage 1 or stage 2, and I just restart the whole process over again and look for more stuff. And that may be expanding the geographic scope of the deed research. It may be going and calculating more points in stage 2, all that stuff. And in fact, I'm going to open my chat here, guys, so I can read you. Don't hate the geodometer.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Rob.
You know, I want to get a surveying history museum set up with all kinds of old equipment because it's basically worthless on eBay now. You can buy whatever you want to. It would be really neat to see some of this stuff. But yeah, more research needed. And So let's go through stage one together. And then I'm going to give you guys some resources. In fact, I'm going to give it to Trent and he can post it later on. But I've got a really nice 6-part article from Knut Hermansen, excellent resource. And I've also got this article from Wendy Lathrop from like a while ago. How much research is enough? And I watched Mentoring Mondays in this a while back or something where they were talking about how much research. But to answer that question, how much research is enough? Well, more than the reasonable surveyor. You have to do at least or more than the reasonable surveyor. That's it. But that's not really my standard. You know, I want to know with, I want to make sure that no one is going to disprove my opinions. How about that? I want to do such a good job that no one can disprove my opinions. Now, they can disagree with my data, they can disagree with my analysis, but they're not going to find some smoking gun document to bury me. And it's so much fun having more research than your opposing surveyor because you can use that against them. And in fact, I'll tell you a story about that and how to abuse other surveyors. And this guy, he looks so bad. Like by the end of the deposition, like he just wanted to be out. He would say anything. He was just like, yes, yes, just get out of there. Yes, yes, anything you say, just let me leave, please. And this wasn't the first time he's been through this, but yeah, we'll have some funny stories. Now, I was going to get some quotes from Clark Brown's Evidence and Procedure about research. There's lots of them in there. I didn't go through that, but I wanted to spend our time tonight looking at my template. So I'm going to share my template here that I use. And to begin with, I have to tell you what is a UM. So a UM is a unique method. There is a unique method for doing everything, for changing the oil on an airplane, for running a title report, for taking out the trash at home. There's a unique method for everything. And we have at my office hundreds and hundreds of unique methods. Expert services, prep, hub, personal, just hundreds of these methods. And I have one of them called CF 471, which is, I'm sure, a little out of date, but it will walk you through, starting from the very beginning, how to do stage one. So you have to find the addresses and the property owners from the pleadings. You have to pull up the template and copy it to the client folder. You have to go to the property GIS, search the addresses, get the parcel IDs, how to order a title report, what to put in the title report. There's all kinds of stuff here. And I really need to do 2 pages because this thing is just incomplete. So what I typically do is I go into the attachment to the unique method and I start at the very top and I go all the way through page and page and page. And I have a list of stories I like to tell people. And I have a list of common mistakes I like to talk about. So let's just go through the very top and let's do one of these together. So the first thing we have here is a basic title block. And I'm going to start off, and I am very guilty of not copying it over, instead just leaving it in the template and overwriting the template. That's bad, bad habit. So I'm going to go in.
Then you hit save and you're like, oh,
You're like, damn it, not again.
yeah.
But I have Dropbox, and Dropbox will let you revert files, which is nice.
There you go.
So I go in here and I pick my client, who, this is all public record, so don't chastise me for sharing everything. But I'm going to call this, let's just call this Odin 471. Okay. So I know that the owners are Kelly and James Odin because they hired me to do a survey. And I don't know anything else. So where the heck do we start here? Well, I always start at the petition or the complaint, because in any complaint, they're going to say, you know, I'm the property owner and this person's taken my property and whatever, whatever. Okay. Well, the Odins were first acquired. Oh, here we go. Jim and Kelly Odin purchased the real property commonly owned as. Thank you. Do you think they know their parcel ID? Absolutely not. So I've got a address, I've got a name. Well, I want to read through the complaint and the answer, and I know that the Odins are claiming trespass by their neighbor. Bailiff. Bailiff's like a 4-letter word in the Odin household. And now I remember, now I'm going to pull up from my petition. I'm going to pull up the answer because the plaintiff files the petition, the defendant files the answer and a counterclaim, and Mrs. Bailiff is going to say all kinds of stuff, but what she really wants to say is that she's claiming a implied easement, and she's claiming lateral support, which is a very odd claim, but we'll go with that. Now, I'll tell you that just a little bit about this case. This is a dispute over 2 pole barns, and the pole barns, yeah, bailiff's dog ate Odin's cat. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know, really. But, you know, this is a dispute over 2 pole barns that are really worth nothing more than like a few dollars. I mean, they're constructed like 100 years ago. They're like 5x5 structures. And one neighbor, because her pole barn was falling down, put a bunch of 2x4s into the other neighbor's pole barn. So, you know, she basically crossed the property line, hammered in a bunch of 2x4s to support her pole barn, and then that same neighbor cut off the central support for her barn to fit her car. So doing a little, you know, we'll call this redneck engineering. But anyways, these are the 2 most expensive pole barns in all of Texas. So Odin says the neighbor's trespassing. Bailiff says there's an implied easement, lateral support, and some other things. And then they send me a bunch of documents and say, look this stuff over. Well, let's just say there was nothing useful in there. It's just the pleadings. All right. Now we come to, where is this place? Well, I know that HCAD, the Houston CAD, is the place to go. And you go in here and you go to HCAD map, and you can go to a parcel viewer. And I bet we can type in the person's name. We can type in the address, anything. So how about, no Kelly Odin? Uh-oh. This thing, you know, the worst thing about Texas is the software. I mean, it's a complete mess. It's not nearly as nice as Florida. Oh my Lord, I absolutely do not want the account number. Odin. Rhonda, James. No James Odin, no Kelly Odin. Okay, let's try the address. Well, we got the address here. And this is not looking right, so I think we may have, Houston may have a problem. And that's why I tell you, you never know the mess we're getting into, because some Texas counties are pretty decent, but other Texas counties are a mess. So how about Harris County GIS parcel? And one of the things I need to update is my spreadsheet with all of these addresses, because finding these places is often impossible. So owner name, Odin. If we can't find her, here's Jim Odin. Oh, here we go. 601 West 10th Street. Hey, there we go. Parcel ID. Let's click on it. And I like to do hyperlinks as well. So let's see. Is there a parcel number here? We'll use the account number. How about that? So what I like to do here is parcel ID. We'll take in this account number, but I like to hyperlink now I never know if this is really going to last because these crazy numbers, but I'm going to hyperlink so I can click on this and it'll take me right to the ticket. Now, what's really exciting here, guys, you have to read all this. Look at this: pole barn, quality, poor, condition, unsound, year built, 1925. If these people have not spent $1 million in this pole barn, they haven't spent $1. I swear to God, it is, it is a travesty. But so I also like to control P and PDF this stuff because this is a whole nother lesson. But I've got, just like Landon Blake does, which I love his YouTube channel, I've got a whole system of, let's see, pleadings. I have a created by folder, which is my stuff, a produce to, which is the client given stuff, accounting, correspondence, deeds, plats, all kinds of stuff. I would stick this guy in, oh, I don't know, other. How about, that's always a good place. Stick that in other. And then what's really cool is you can go here and you can go back and you can click on, guess what? There's bailiff, copy paste. There's the apartment building nearby, copy paste. So as you can see here in my template, we've got the complaint, we've got the answer, no initial review, put NA here, adjoiners, bailiff, Patricia. All right. This is bailiff, right? So we can put her account number right here because this is like gold for the title companies, because we're going to give this to the title company and say, go wild. So copy bailiff, go in here. There's an apartment building here. And this is my kind of job because there's only 2 adjoiners. All the rest are roads. This is going to be so easy. I mean, this is going to be, like child's play. Go in here. And you never quite know what these people are going to name. PDF this into other, copy our account number with the business name, Performance Investment Group LLC. That sounds exciting. Pick up our URLs. Now we come time to the vesting deeds. And look at this. We have our owner name, parcel ID, and now we need to put, we need to put the latest deed. Now, if this was in Florida, there would be a link to this deed somewhere on this document. You press the button and hey, look, there's another crummy building down here, 80 square feet. If this was in Florida, there would be a button, click deed, download, move on. But in Texas, there's a thing called Texas File. And this is where a private company gets to charge you ridiculous amounts of money to download public records. Any of you guys used Texas File before? In most states, this would be free. But in Texas, you have to load your account with $500 and then you have to get purchasing. So here's Harris County. And I'll tell you what, this search feature will make you absolutely crazy because it never functions the way you want it to. And I swear they do it to make the money, because I download 5 times as many deeds as I ever need, because I'm constantly fighting with the research on Texas file. Oh, that's exciting. Okay. Now, I am always on the lookout for documents here, because I typed in bailiff and her neighbor, Jim and Kelly Oden, pulled up. Why would they have this? Well, what is this? A les pendens. What is a les pendens? Any idea? And y'all can turn your microphone on, and y'all can say anything you want to. This is not a lecture. So y'all can unmute your microphone. You can say nice things. You can say nasty things. You can make comments, whatever. Megan says foreclosure.
Some legal thing.
What's that?
It's some legal thing.
It's a legal thing. Okay. Well, let us ask. Let us ask the AI God. What is les pendens?
Notice of pending action, according to Mr. Stahl.
Yes, a notice of pending action. So this is just saying that, well, you know, I always want to, I enjoy wasting money, you know, talk to my wife. So let's buy this, even though I already have it. Uh-oh, we've got 24 items in our cart. Someone's been in here. Where is the, oh, here we go. Delete selected items. So my shopping cart is now empty. Let's just purchase this bad boy. All right. Notice is given, blah, blah, blah. There's a pending lawsuit in Harris County between bailiff and the Odens for various things. Now, this is not stopping anyone from buying or selling or mortgaging, but this is putting the mortgage company, potential buyers, everybody on notice that there is a civil lawsuit going on with these properties. So if you get in a lawsuit over property, anyone can file a les pendens and say, hey, everybody, there's a lawsuit going on. Be careful with this property. Okay. And if the Odens try to sell their property, the title company is going to find this and have some real interesting questions to ask. So what I go do here is I go into filter types. Here we go. Warranty deed. Update. What I really want here is just the vesting deed. So this is the deed that transferred the property to Patricia Bailiff. And guess what? Here it is. I've already bought it. So I'm going to put in here number 1. Oh my gosh. You're going to fight me. I'm going to go into Patricia Bailiff's and I'm going to put document number 2007, which is actually page 505. I'm sorry, volume 505, page 1852. Now, what I should have done is that for Odin. So I'm going to go back to a new search. Odin, James. And if I was smart, I would have picked grantee, because I want to see where someone sold him this property. So go into warranty deed. Let's try that. He's got some property here. He's got some property here. Got all. James Odin has a bunch of property apparently. So how about Kelly? Oh, look at this warranty deed from so-and-so to Kelly Odin, Jim Odin. Now, I also look at the subdivision because I know this is in Houston Heights Okay, great. And I have 2 of these for some reason, not sure why. But if we take a look at this, we're going to find their deed. So we can copy over this volume number. This is the document number. This is the volume number and the page. Now we're in good shape. And you guys can see how fast this goes. You know, it's not normally this fast, but it usually doesn't take too long. All right, how about performance investment group? This should be exciting because they probably have 1 million properties in Harris County. And Texas file is known for having typos. So it could be performance could be spelled wrong or something weird. And if I'm getting lazy, I can always tell the title company to deal with it. But, oh, that's not going to work. In performance INV surfaces, nope. So whenever I get lazy, I give the title company the name and the parcel ID, and I told them to go, they can do it. So we've got Patricia Bailiff, her deed, we've got performance investment group, and I think I accidentally deleted my, yeah, there it is. Now, do I have all the vesting deeds? Nope, not for PIGLC. Any references to lot and block? Oh, yes, there is. Let's take a look at Bailiff's deed here and see what she has to say. Where did we save Bailiff? Created by deeds. Here's a whole bunch of deeds. Let's pull up one of them. Here we go. The East 6720 of lots 17 and 18, block 211, Houston Heights. And look at that, volume and page number. For once, I think an attorney wrote a decent legal description. What do you guys think? So, yes, this is going to be lot 17 and 18, block, not the worst. I go with that. 211, Houston Heights. And what was our volume? This is exciting, guys. This is volume 1 of Harris County. I mean, this was a long time ago. Now, what's going to make this really exciting? Nope, not in Texas, no PLSS. What is going to make this really exciting is let's look at this plat. And I want you guys to tell me what is missing, okay? So let's find 211. So that's not it. Oh my gosh. I'm going to go blind. Okay, so here is 211. 236. Here it is, right here. All right. So what are we missing here?
Dimensions.
That would be helpful, right? You know, having some dimensions in the plat. I'm not that surprised there's no dimensions, but it was kind of a shock, really. You know, as I'm used to seeing some kind of dimensions on the plat. And I'm trying to remember what year this was from. I need to flip.
This says 1892. Well,
this day, 1892. That's crazy, right? I mean, that is such a long time ago. And, you know, meets and bounds, and I don't think I saw a north arrow. You know, north arrow, who cares? I mean, north is up. Everybody knows that. You know? So I was really shocked by the the fact that there was no dimensions on the plat. But the good news is that this parcel 211 is bounded on 3 sides by a road. So I figure, let's go find the road first. And believe it or not, there was a ton of monuments and no one's disputing the location of the parcel. But another good thing to do is I like to hyperlink from Dropbox my everything. So if I don't want to go searching, for everything when I'm in a client meeting, so I'll hyperlink everything to my Dropbox files. There's no PLSS. I don't know what that means. No references to, that's a typo, PLSS. Nope, not in Texas. Any references to court decisions? Well, let's pretend like a few weeks has gone by. We've gotten our title reports for the parcels, and we're just going to cruise through Pro Title. Now, I'm not going to bother showing you any of this because it's mostly just junk. But the good news is that out of the 81 pages, there was really nothing else. I mean, there were some other deeds, prior owners. They have the lawsuit in here, whatever. And guess what software they use? Texas File. Okay, so no boundary line agreements. Nope. Now we get to the fun stuff. So GIS data. You can download GIS data oftentimes from the property appraiser, but I have a very limited time. So I go on Regrid, I go to self-serve data store, type in Harrison County, Texas. Harrison County, Texas. Harris County, Georgia. Am I spelling this wrong? Harris County, Texas. I purchased the premium data set for $500 because you got to spend that money, and load this thing up into either AutoCAD or ArcGIS. So I go in here, buy the entire county data set, and I buy the premium because it has right-of-way. And I'm interested in right-of-way and parcels. And it's got some building footprints, whatever. Buy this thing, pay the $500, put it into Carlson or ArcGIS. And my issue is that this data set is so big. So what I typically do is I mask out a 1 mile radius around the property. So I have all the good data, but I don't have like a 20 gig file. So you go in here, link in, purchase, and I typically drop it in my GIS. Not sure I have a GIS in here. 22 GIS. Link in my GIS folder into Dropbox. Yes. Put in my GIS Dropbox folder. Then I grab a couple of aerials, and this is really not necessary for this case because in Civil 3D, you can turn on an aerial layer from Google Earth or Bing or whatever, but I still like to get an aerial from Google Earth. And what I should have told you before is up here, Google Earth KML, because in my main folder, I always put a Google Earth KML in the main folder so I can go to it again and again. So we're going to go in here, put in our address, And I like to save this as a place. So drop a pin, and I name it the name of the case or the name of the client. So we'll save it, save place as Kelly Oden, and I call this point. And then I go in here and I make a polygon with the same name of the area, so I can share this with other friends, field workers, whoever, and call it polygon. So now we've got our point file linked. GIS data is there. How about an aerial photo? So being lazy, go in here to our point, go to save image. And I typically like to get a couple of different aerials. So here is one today. Oh, here's our 2 pole barns. Go to maximum resolution, turn off all the different items here, save image, and in the aerial photos, we can call this current aerial. And I like to go back in time as well, maybe how about 10 years, and see what kind of good stuff. All right, how about, oh wow, 1944? These are awful images. Okay, I can see 2 pole barns there in 2002. So let's save this as 2002 aerial. So we've got our 2002 aerial. 2024 aerial, and link those guys accordingly in Dropbox. Why am I getting all this stuff? Because I want to be able to give my office crew and my field crew absolutely as much data as I possibly can. So link that in. Any plats? Yes, there are. I guess I asked that question twice, but we have our plats here. Now you're going to see I'm asking, is this plotted? Well, that's part of the working sketch. And we can just keep going through these. Any maps? Nope, don't have any maps. Any land surveys? Yes, I've got several land surveys given to me by the client. List those. Rights of way. We're going to contact the state and local municipalities, ask them for rights of way. Now, this is something a little unique. Now, how many of you guys, when you do a survey, check in to an NGS benchmark every time?
Either local or NGS, either one, but yeah.
Or both?
Yep.
When Trent and I were doing this survey in Santa Fe last month, there was a beautiful local county control network of like 12 monuments. We still checked into 2 NGS benchmarks. And we do that to prove the validity and the accuracy of the RTK GPS, because it really is just, it's magic. You turn it on, you put in your project, and whammo, you've got locations. But are those locations really trustworthy? So I don't know if you guys have seen this yet, but the NGS launched a beautiful new service called NGS Map. It's much easier to use than the previous. This will run on your iPhone. You can press the current location. So I'm going to pull up my address. This is one of my favorite parts of the job, going to find NGS benchmarks. I am so delighted when I get to report a mark as found. It's amazing. So you go in here, type in the address, and go find yourself at least 3 NGS benchmarks in the area. So we can click on this guy. This is a vertical. This is a horizontal. Now, the other cool thing is that this passive mark page is a major, major upgrade from the old data sheets, because you've got pictures. It's got a pretty GUI. Now, there's no picture here, but you guys can go out tomorrow and find this. So you say, okay, stability, you can use GPS. It was last found in 2022, which is a good sign. Recovered 2022, recovered as described. So what I'll do here is I'll go to the data sheet, and this is my best trick. When you go into the data sheet, Control P, well, first of all, copy the PID, Control P. Now, don't just save it as a PID. Also, when you go into the control, oh, here we go, 18 survey control. I always put the year it was last recovered, because when I go to search for this in the field, I'm going to go to the ones that have been recovered closest in time. So, Lori, the best answer is to go to the NGS map on this on your Android, because this will work mobile Android and mobile iOS. And it even has this button where there's this My Location. So you can click this and it will, follow your Android phone around using your built-in GPS.
Okay. So just using the internet on
exactly.
your phone?
Yep. Just go to the web page.
Okay.
That's all you have
Gotcha.
to do. And
Okay.
there hasn't been a good app for benchmark hunting in years. So thank
Yeah.
God that they finally, NGS finally did a ArcGIS, because this works really nicely. Now, I
Okay,
like
thank
to
you.
get, sure, yeah, I like to get 3 benchmarks, because, and if I have a chance, really get 5, because getting, finding 3 in the field, you're not going to find every one of them. So you get yourself 5 benchmarks and put the PIDs with the year, and then link your PDF in Dropbox. All right. No public land survey system, so I like to do the crossing out there. Now, the last thing is like weird, abnormal, and interesting notes. And I do this because I come across stuff in the title reports, in the land surveys, in all kinds of places. And I think to myself, I need to follow up on that. And then the phone rings and my attention's diverted elsewhere, and I forget about whatever I found for another month. So as I'm going through the surveys, the plats, the deeds, whatever, I'm going to put the notes in there. And the reason why I say that McCutcheon, The reason why I say all plotted here, all plotted, is because my ultimate goal in this exercise is to build what I call a working sketch. And the working sketch is a visualization of all record documents. So the working sketch is going to look something like this. Oh, Kirby. The working sketch is going to look sketch map dot, oh, here we go, deed sketch. It's going to look something like this. And initially it looks crazy, but I have these on layers where I can turn on and turn off the railroad. I can turn on and turn off the property layer. I can zoom in to different deeds and plats and other kind of visualizations. And I can look at the monuments that were found by other surveyors. And I love to show this to the client because they can turn on and turn off layers and understand what is going on here. And I've got the parcel, I've got the deed information with a deed, I've got the line work on previous surveys digitized, I've got the lot and block numbers of the subdivision. I've got basically everything from the record documents in one PDF. And I love that because oftentimes I am overwhelmed by data and I need to look at things one piece at a time. But I also want to know how things relate to each other. Like, does the lot and block plat match the previous survey? Yes or no? So as I'm going through each item, I'm plotting them up as a working sketch. And I am going to ultimately have two things. So the final deliverables of this stage one, number one, a working sketch, DWG and PDF, which is a graphic of every record document, at least the ones I think are important. And the second is a CSV search file. So I can load this sucker in my data collector and I can go looking for boundary monuments, easements, monuments, public land system corners, rights of way, everything. So I just have to give this CSV to the field crew and tell them to go crazy. Now, sometimes it's more complicated because, like the Santa Fe job, I had at least a dozen CSV files from other surveyors. And I don't know what datum these people were working on, but they were taking us to the craziest places. Absolutely nothing in the search area. But having a CSV is so important because I hate it when people go to the field and have no idea what they're searching for. They're just like hoping to trip over the monuments as they walk around the property. And they don't know what to look for, a pipe or a rod. They don't know whose cap it's supposed to be. They don't know anything. They're just, bumbling around. And I want to use my time in the field as efficiently as possible. So I don't want to waste my time. So having a really good search file and a visualization of the record documents is key. So let me take a few questions if y'all have any, and then I'll tell you some interesting stories.
Anyone? You've given me a couple new ones. The regrid I didn't see before. The NGS one, obviously, I knew that was kind of in the works, but that's a good one.
It's nice.
So
it's super nice.
I sent that out in our Topo Cruise WhatsApp already for the benchmark boys. So
Whenever I go on vacation, I find one NGS benchmark and I report it as found, and I take a picture of myself with the benchmark.
Oh, very cool. I love that.
You gotta have to look forward to, right?
Your own geocaching.
Yeah, exactly. So
that'd be something you would do, Rob. Don't lie.
I don't want to talk continually, guys. So if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask them before we tell any funny stories. Early information on title with the lawsuit, is that the same as the cloud on title? Okay, so a cloud of title is something that prevents the property from being sold or makes the property less valuable. So, you know, I guess I would consider it a cloud on the title, yes, because like if you're gonna buy a property and you see this place has a less pendants, for God bless America, go somewhere else. Like go find another property. I mean, your life is not worth, 5 years and $1 million in a lawsuit. But it doesn't really prevent the property from being sold. It just prevents someone from buying it without knowing there's some shenanigans going on, if that makes sense. Okay, good. I assume the DWG file is for the field crew to upload on the data collector. Now, Dave, I need to treat myself to some new gear because I use an Embed Flow app, which is kind of like a basic GPS data collector. So I just load the CSV. But I understand that in like a Trimble or Leica, you can load a DWG, which is pretty cool. So I actually have a new R12 and a half-second S9 on my budget, and hopefully with that new data collector, I could load the DWG. And in stage 2, we will talk about the field package that all field surveyors get before they go to the field. But it's basically all the goodies we found in stage 1 that's of importance. I give them 11 by 17 prints of surveys, plats, whatever, and I just highlight off, found it in the record in the field package. Yeah, Robert, you'll have to educate us about that, how to use those DXFs. Did the properties in the case, oh, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, so the Trimble won't use the DWG format, they'll do DXF format.
Okay.
So when you export it into a file, the DXF file, you got to make sure that when you window everything, you take off all of your labels if you just want the line work, because when you window everything will come over.
Okay, interesting.
And then you can actually use it in the field as staking the line, and if you don't have any points, you can actually do some calcing with it. But yeah, I in the field, it's fantastic.
Now, would it be too much to ask for you to record a short video on how to take a complete DWG and window out the junk to put it in the Trimble collector?
Nope, not at all. Let me work on that, and I can get back to you.
We have lots of time, so there's no rush. Oh, XPad on Android will use DWG. Okay, cool.
Cool. And you got two hands up. Rob first, and then Megan's behind.
Okay, Rob, go ahead.
Yeah, Tony, you nailed it at the beginning about research and when do you know you have enough. So one of my colleagues has been kicking his own ass on this project where he's retracing a bunch of deeds, and we're putting in a new segment of freeway, and it's one deed after another that things are not fitting on a north-south line.
Oh no.
By 30 feet. 3/10, we can kind of sweep that a little bit, but 30 feet, somebody notices, right? So he's gone back and okay, well, these deeds that were written in that were promulgated in 2015 or something, call back to 20 years earlier, call back to 20 years earlier, and so forth and so forth. So he's been requesting deeds that just keep calling back to previous deeds. He went back to a 1915 deed that called to a 1914 deed. And that initial call, that all of these deeds were all called from the same point of commencement, that initial call was changed from a northwest, like 89 degrees, to a southwest, or it was changed from a southwest, which was the correct call in the 1914 deed.
Perfect.
The
Scrivener's error.
In the 1915 deed. And for 110 years almost, people have been, or 109 years, people have been carrying that forward and not recognizing the problem. And you carry that up 1,000 feet, and the angular rotation on that line, it's next to nothing at the south end, of course, but at the north end, it's a 30-foot gap. And when he applied the correct, tried putting in the southwest bearing, everything lined up with lines of occupation, with, this is farmland, so it's been that way for 150 years. And
don't you love that? Copy
paste.
They're just like copy paste. Yeah, Texas is famous for that, copy paste. And a lot of times the copy and paste is so bad that pieces get removed or they get changed, or no one even bothers to look. They go to the most current deed, copy paste, move on. 30 seconds, 30. What an embarrassment. But I'm glad that y'all took the time to go back far enough to find the mistake, because no one bothered in the past century to fix this. I mean, come on, what an embarrassment.
Right.
It's a great story. Okay, who's our next hand up?
Yeah, we had Megan.
Trent.
Yep, Megan.
Hi. So I am curious what your DWG file looks like, because at work we do something where we'll pull the vesting deed, and we usually try to go back to deeds or to descriptions, and we run into something like what was just described often, where it's copy paste. But sometimes I get multiple descriptions that are very, very different. And I actually just went through a boundary law class with Knut Hermansen last semester. And that project, he intentionally gave us deed descriptions that were all different. So my mosaic file, as I like to call it, was a bunch of deeds with different angles, different monuments, different whatnot, kind of laying on top of each other, and then figuring out what made sense or what was realistic to help with my boundary determination. But in the real world, I know that doesn't always happen. So what does it look like? Is it a mosaic? Is it a bunch of lines on top of each other? What does your crew see when they look at that?
So, the problem with doing a working sketch is you do not have any field measurements yet. So you're just kind of guessing where the starting point is, and you're drawing this based on your guess. Now, maybe you have some public land survey system corners or something you can start with, but really, the working sketch is used to visualize the record documents. But you have to appreciate that it's all just a rough guesstimate, right? Because the monuments control, obviously, there's gonna be so many other, so much more data. But yes, you may have parcel on top of parcel. Now here's a good example. Oh my gosh. Geis report. So in this, I think I'm still sharing. In this riparian survey, I found that this green is one parcel, this purple is another, And I found that like something is not right. Like you run the angle and distance, there's a sliver here in between the two parcels. Just because that's there in the working sketch does not mean that's true. So to answer your question, I would just start off at an assumed point, the best you can do, and see what fits together, compare it, but don't really, use it for any kind of determination until you go to the field, because this is just a search area. It's not going to be the ultimate boundary. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
And it's usually a mess. So just expect it to be kind of a working mess for a while, because when you have parcel, parcel on top of parcel, like this green parcel here, every deed, the angle and distance changed by a few tenths in a degree or two. And I don't know why they kept changing the angle and distance, but it just kept changing. Now, to fix that, we'll talk about that in a minute. But yes, you should expect it to be messy. All right, Austin said, do you ever have to extend your 30-day schedule for phase one? Yes. And oftentimes, I have 30 days for each phase. So I may be doing some phase one research while I'm getting the field crew schedule for phase two. So I've really got 90 days to deliver this, if not longer. So I may be doing phase one work while phase two is getting scheduled, other things. And a lot of times everything fits together really well and it's easy. And then other times it's a mess and I need to go back and just tell the client, hey, look, this is what we discovered. Trent, remember we discovered the 20 feet of the backyard was actually owned by the golf course.
Yep.
So this person had built their subdivision home backyard with their pool and their barbecue outdoor, like this is a good place, but it wasn't their property. It was the golf course property. And yeah, best of luck to them. All right, George says, did the properties in this case actually have easements per the bailiff claim? Okay, now that's a loaded question, because remember, there is a express easement, which is in your title report, it's written. You've got your prescriptive easement, which is gotten from the user by use. I used this road for a certain number of years, whatever. And then you have an implied easement, which is granted by the court based on circumstances. So an implied easement, there was a common owner, the property was split, due to the common owner and the splitting of the property, one property needs to use the property of another, whatever. So George, to answer your question, there were no express easements. The bailiff is claiming an easement because this was under a common ownership, the parcels were split, and she claims that the wooden boards were there 100 years ago or whatever back in the day to support the two pole barns, which I disagree with, but that doesn't really matter. It's just that there's no express easements. All right, so let me give you a couple of oh, here we go. Keegan says, not sure how to raise my hand. Typically what I do is use the GIS property lines, the ballpark, yep, and then kind of go from there. And I do the same thing. I try to find a common fence corner or something to sort of get you as a starting point. Now, I would also say you may request other surveyors' files. So I should have mentioned this. But whenever I find a survey, land surveys, surveyors contacted, I write a letter, certified mail, and if I find a survey from, who do we want to talk to today? I find a survey from Green leaf. So the first thing I do, survey boards contacted. The first thing I do is I go on the Texas website and I type in Greenleaf Surveying, and I see if they have an active licensed business number. Half the time, they don't. It's a corporation made, not licensed to practice in the state. That's exciting. The second thing I do is I pull up the person's number. And more often than not, these poor souls have more board complaints against them than paper can print. Poor Mr. Goodale had, like, I don't know, maybe 5 complaints against him, which isn't a whole lot. But I once looked up a guy in Texas, he had like 25 board complaints against him. Now, if you see this gentleman who has 25 board complaints against him, what is your first thought on this survey map? God help us. God help us. Okay, so we run a board complaint. We make sure his license is valid. We want to know how many complaints he has on him. We run Greenleaf. Is this license valid as a business? Does it have any complaints? The next thing I do is I go to Greenleaf's address and I write this surveyor letter that says, Dear John. Oh, I don't think this is the letter I write, but I write a letter that says, Dear John, I'm surveying tract number whatever in the Houston Heights subdivision. Can you help me by providing any type of evidence, field notes, DWG files, anything you have in your record that is part of this survey map? Can you help me with anything? Now, how many times do you guys think the surveyor contacts me back?
Very rarely.
Certified letter. Dear John, please help me. I would say 1 out of 50 responds. And some of them respond with nasty messages, like, why should I help you? Which is not uncommon. Or, what's in it for me? That's not an uncommon. Or, I filed that plat. Are you too dumb to use it to find the monuments? Or, I've gotten these things before. And it just always, you know, boggles the mind and the attitudes of these people. But every so often, I do get a really nice email from the surveyor, and they give me, I wish I remember the name of the job, but they give me their DWG, and it has coordinates, real world state plane coordinates for several or up to a dozen monuments. And that is worth so much if I have the real world coordinates. And I use that as the basis for my working sketch. And I put everything in there because they've surveyed these points. Why not use it? Now, am I going to use it without checking? Of course not, but this is just a working sketch. And a really cool thing is that in a job similar to this, during discovery of the lawsuit, these people produced, one of the engineers produced this thing called utility, I think it was called. Yeah, utility base bound. This is one of the discovery documents that was given to me. And it's going to take a minute to load. You have it in PDF. But this thing had the construction features in dispute, curb and gutter, the building, but even better, it had all the monuments listed with the monument types. So it would say, you know, chiseled X in concrete, 5/8 inch iron rod, pipe with a survey number, all these things. And I was like, darn, this is amazing. It wasn't in state plane coordinates. It was on the 10,000 datum. But still, if these people have found a dozen monuments on their construction drawing, why not go find 2 or 3 monuments, scale and rotate it over, and go search for those things? That sounds easy, right? So what I'm telling you guys is to work smarter and not harder, because you know, this is all fluid. You know, you're always going back and forth in all these pages. But if you make smart decisions and use all of the record resources available to you, it's going to save you a lot of time and it's going to help maintain your license. All right, I don't want to keep y'all too long, but I will tell you a couple of funny stories. So story number one is a dispute over a double monumented corner in Wyoming. One surveyor really didn't do any record research, while another surveyor was familiar enough with the courthouse that he located, believe it or not, let's find this surveyor letter. He found, I want to go to Riggs, working sketch. He found from 1949 where the private surveyor, not in government service, private surveyor, retraced a whole bunch of sections. His name was W.R. Robinson, and he did not like Wyoming's recording statutes. There was no repository for private PLSS records. So he went to the local courthouse. He recorded every page of his field notes. Now, how do you think he recorded all these field notes when he owned no property in Weston County, Wyoming? How do you record that?
Miscellaneous docs or something?
He wrote grantor, W.R. Robinson, grantee, the public, and he recorded every page of his field notes.
Oh, wow.
So these parcel IDs, section numbers, township numbers, none of this was referenced in the courthouse. But if you were a local surveyor and you had a keen eye in the record room and you searched the surveyor's name, we found pages and pages and pages of 1949 surveyor notes. And he described the section which is in dispute. He described rejecting a corner because it was not fitting with his work. And he described setting a new monument. Well, guess what? The surveyor who did no record research used the erroneous corner, and the surveyor that knew the research found the Robinson records and was able to disprove the other corner from the 1949 Robinson records. That is pretty hard to argue with, because Robinson probably ran 100 miles of line in this area and between section corners, and his notes were very detailed. So the lesson here is you need to work with the local surveyor if you're out of town. And that local surveyor needs to be in the know, because do you think a out-of-town surveyor would know about these like courthouse basement retracement records? No. All right. So the second story is a surveyor deposition in Orlando. Now, the greatest thing you can do as an attorney is to impeach the opposing expert, make him look bad. Now, if you want to be embarrassed, go pull up the, where is this? Lake Catahoula, LaSalle County. I was reading this case the other day, and the judge in his decision spent pleadings. This judge in his decision spent 3 pages of text talking about how the defendant's surveyor has been discredited. Again, oh, here we go. The judge quotes the surveyor's deposition, question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. And the opposing surveyor actually proves your own case. That is a great cross-examination. And the surveyor's testimony was so bad that the judge used the opposing surveyor's testimony to prove the plaintiff's case. How? And then he uses 3 out of 47 pages of his decision just quoting the opposing surveyor, because the opposing surveyor confirmed the plaintiff's own case. So last year in Orlando, Florida, I had a riparian allocation survey. And as everyone knows, in order to do a riparian allocation, you have to locate the upland boundaries first. Because if you don't know the property boundaries, you can't know where to start for the riparian allocation. So the attorney I'm working with says, well, you disagree with Dr. Nettleman's upland boundary, correct? Yes. Why do you disagree with his boundary? Well, because the deed, which is the vesting deed, says the angle is due north, while the Nettleman survey shows it as 3 degrees northeast. Okay, why do you disagree? Well, the vesting deed says. And then the attorney says to this other surveyor, says, well, what if there was a boundary line agreement recorded in district court which sets the boundary of these 2 properties? Would you use it or not use it on your own survey? And the surveyor says, well, of course I would use it. It's a boundary line agreement. It's been settled in district court, it goes on and on. Well, then the attorney pulls out a document and says, well, take a look at this. It says agreement. Okay. Now, it also says between, well, what's the date? Okay, well, the date is, let's see. I think it's 1958. Let's take a look. 1958. Okay. Now, are these properties in dispute located in Section 5, Township 23 South, 28 East? Yes or no? Well, yeah, I guess so. All right. And do you know who is the Kunzigs? Nope, never heard of them. Do you know who Lawrence is? Never heard of them. Okay. Well, let's take a look at a map here. So here is a map. Okay. Are the properties in dispute located on Lake Down? Yes or no? Yes, they are. Okay. And do you know who used to own your client's property 70 years ago? Nope, don't know. Well, would it surprise you if their name was Kunzig? I don't know. Okay, what about the other neighbor in dispute? Do you know who owned their property 70 years ago? Don't know. Would it surprise you if their name was Lawrence? Could be. Okay, let's take a look. Well, here is a line from the section corner over and down, and here is some monuments, an iron rod, whatever. If now, just assuming that this line right here with the nice little curve 3442, imagine that on one side was your client and on the other side was the other client, and imagine that this district court set this line with this, section corner and distance and all that. Would you use it if, you assumed the 2 owners? Well, I'd have to, because it's a district court. And then he walked through the chain of title showing that, went from so-and-so to so-and-so to Lawrence. And at the end of this hour-long discussion, the other expert admitted that he never went beyond the vesting deed, that he never found out there was a boundary line agreement in effect for these two properties that he didn't know who owned the property. And it was just an absolute brutal deposition. And by the time it was over, the guy would say anything. Yes, 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 anything just to get out of there. And this just goes to show that record research really does matter, because no one had any idea of this 1958 agreement before we ran a title report. And if I didn't know about this agreement, I would never have been able to figure out, why is there this, hiatus between the two properties here. And I'll show you all again. Let me share my screen. I'll show you guys again the hiatus. But we realized there was a hiatus between these two parcels. Odin. Well, anyways, we realized there was a hiatus between these deeds that didn't make any sense. And we used the 1958 agreement to locate the common boundary line. And if you're going to argue with a district court case with the boundary line, good luck. So you never know how much research is required. It just has to be enough for you to feel comfortable. That's it. And how much is too much? Who knows? But I usually have, hundreds, if not more pages for each of these stage 1 files. And you never know how much is too much, but you always know it's too little, because another surveyor can discredit your work, right? So do enough so another surveyor is not going to discredit what you've done in stage 1. So any questions about anything, stories, the process?
Yeah, you got two hands up. George was first, and then Megan after that.
Okay, I've got to say, working here in Northern Nevada, I have been very, very lucky in requesting information from fellow surveyors. Evidently up here, we have a lot of respect for each other. And the thought that always comes to my mind in that situation when someone asks me for information was, if I give them the information I have and I've done my job properly, more likely than not, they're going to agree with me. They're going to use my work. They're going to agree with me. And we're not going to have a problem. We're going to solve a problem. That's what we're supposed to be doing anyway. And as far as research, that last piece of information that you collect might be the piece of information that really sets your survey up for success.
Yes, that's true. And, if someone asked me for my data, I would give it to them. But if they want to be paid, pay them something nominal, like $1,000 or something. Who cares? I mean, they spent the time to gather it. I'll pay them something. It's valuable. And all it does is get passed along to the client. So if they want a little money for the time to pull up their files, be my guest. I'll give you $1,000. I mean, $500, whatever. But simply ignoring the request is frustrating.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Kind of like Will, and just being able to help each other out, and like George said. But I'm the same way. Open book. You guys can have whatever I have, because it's got nothing to hide, right? Like this was the best survey we could come up with. If you got something different, let's talk about it, type of thing. But
exactly. Yep.
It's good stuff. Good stuff, George. Megan had one too.
Two things. One, kind of a funny story relating to this discussion about surveyor sharing info and all of that. Last year, or I guess 2 years ago, I was on a stakeout for a boundary dispute, and this was our second trip to the site. The first time we had gone and measured corners and all of that, and the second time we were setting corners. So the disputing neighbor's surveyor was there while we were doing our stakeout, and he came over to us. He goes, "Oh, do you have any field notes?" And I said, "Yeah, we're setting corners. If you wait, half an hour, you can shoot our corners." And so that's what he did. He kind of did what he did around the block, took our notes and shot our corners. And then we went on with it. And then the second question was pertaining to property searches. So I work for a multidiscipline firm, and I'm sure we all have this problem even in survey only firms, where there's no such thing as a limitless budget, right? And I guess my question is, what would the prudent surveyor who is maybe doing a survey from scratch rather than getting involved in a dispute or something like that, what is considered not enough, but you have to kind of toe the line. You have to toe the line between what is realistic and what can you win a project for, right? Like there's this very fine balancing act. And
this is that's a fantastic question. Yeah, I love that question, Megan. And I would tell you that I've been involved in so many lawsuits where the surveyor charged like $5,000 or $1,000, and they're being sued for $1 million or $5 million. So, you know, I would say that the budget, you have to have a realistic timeline for doing a job, obviously, but you cannot let the budget drive the results. It's just like, well, I bid the survey for a couple $1,000, and so I can only do, I have a gentleman who works for me part-time as a field crew, and he works locally in kind of a rural area, and his boss has him go to the courthouse in the morning, get some deeds, go to the field in the afternoon, do the survey, and then produce it in like a couple days or a week. And that would drive me crazy because it takes me time to think about things and for things to like register in my mind. I looked at that boundary line agreement for like a month. I was like, where the hell is this? Like, what are these properties? What are these angles? Where I know the section corner, but there were no names on the parcel. So I was having a hard time like piecing it together. Where does this fit? And if I had to make like split-second decisions, like go to the courthouse in the morning, go surveying in the afternoon, it never would have hit me that these two parcels in dispute were the ones involved in the lawsuit. It takes me a while. So I would tell you to be very careful about letting the budget drive the choices, because even though you've only charged, you know, a small amount of money, your liability is unlimited. You know, for example, I have a survey in Houston where I think the surveyor charged like 20 grand for a 400-acre topo. Pretty inexpensive. And they did it inexpensive, but they ended up costing the construction company $5 million in extra fill because the elevations were wrong. And now they're being sued for $5 million. Now, maybe they have $1 million insurance policy, whatever, but they're going to come after for the other $4 million. So I would say, you know, set your standards first and give the client a reasonable expectation of what it's going to cost in time and money. And if the client cannot afford it, go find other clients. You know, just be very careful about letting budgets drive decisions, because even a small mistake could be a lot of money in liability.
And I think, you know, to that point would be just, you know, you do the stage one and you put together some packets, and then you start to do the field work, you start to put things together. Then how sticky do things become, you know, just like kind of like the case you've laid out now, right? And so the other one, I'm sure maybe in some proposals I have it, I can copy and paste it in ours, but ours has a language that if, you know, during the course of our survey, it becomes a little more difficult or controlling monuments and we have to start going out farther and farther to build surveys, we can request additional services and that kind of stuff. But without, you know, we won't do it without written consent, but there's those kind of caveats in there as well. But to the point, you know, a budget never drives the final survey result, because that's not going to save your butt when you're sitting in front of the state board. They're not going to care if you charge 1,000 or 100,000. So
I read a book by
if you did it wrong, you did it wrong.
Henry Sipe is the grandfather of West Virginia surveyors. And he says every surveyor eats a little crow every now and then, but when it becomes a steady diet, the board tends to notice. So like everybody, like, you know, oh, I wish I would have done that better, or man, I'm going to do something different next time. But like when you're making systematic decisions based on budgetary concerns, that's when becomes an issue. Now, Keegan and Doug and even Trent are really nice people, because they're like, well, you know, you bid a project and sometimes you make good money and sometimes you lose a little money and whatever. I would say work on an hourly basis unless you are absolutely certain of what this is going to cost. Like for smaller jobs, I'll do a fixed cost because I know, you know, a couple days in the field, couple days in the office, order your title reports, get your field crew paid, whatever. But a lot of times you find stuff you didn't think about and it costs more money. And I tell people, like, you know, send a retainer. This is the idea. If it's going to be more, what I like to do is I like to have a meeting with the clients at stage 1, at stage 2, and at stage 3. And I sit down with them and I say, look, stage 1, we got your deeds, we have your title reports, we got some surveys, which are really interesting. We got a bunch of data here. Here's your working sketch. Play with the PDF. Turn on a layer, turn off the layer. Well, guess what? There's a boundary line agreement from 1958, which is very exciting because it's going to be the determination. We need to find these monuments from the 58 BLA. It's going to take 4 days of field work. Well, each day of field work's like 10 or 15,000 bucks. You can multiply it, whatever. But I can tell you that if you don't do the field work for these monuments in the 58 agreement, only bad things are going to happen from here. And they're like, oh, this is really exciting. You found something no one else has. Okay, go do the field work. But what I would say is about your budget and about the project overall is you need to be in constant communication with your clients, telling them what you're finding, what's exciting, what raises concerns. And when you have bad news, you need to tell the client immediately. Like when we found the 15-foot encroachment of the guy's backyard, we told them that day that there may be a real issue. And really, they didn't care, which was really weird, but whatever, right? You know, so yeah. So Keenan, Doug, Trent, all nice people. I would say you need to make money on every project, or pretty much every project, because you're in a business and you're not making money, then going to have some real issues. What do you call a business that makes no money?
Closed.
Yeah, it's closed. I call it a hobby.
Yeah, exactly.
I know a lot of hobby surveyors out there. My friend once traded a bird bath for an elevation certificate. Yeah. It was a nice bird bath. It was, you know, concrete and everything. But yeah, I would say instead of worrying about the cost, focus on the communication.
Exactly.
And that's hard, because if I lived my life, if I never talked to another human being, I'd probably, you know, die happy. You know, I love my wife and kids and they're fine, but anybody else, like I have some friends, a few friends, whatever, but I don't enjoy client meetings. Like, let's just talk about everything. Okay, sure. But I know you have to do it because, you know, it's your job to tell them what's going on.
Yep. Back to that point, the communication saves you from a state board complaint, saves you from, you know, going over your head when it comes to budgets, that kind of stuff. But communication just in life is the most important thing, right? Rob had something. Go for it.
Yeah, Tony, were you the surveyor for the golf course or for the encroacher?
For the but see, I was a surveyor for the encroacher, but this was not even the issue. Like, we found this issue, and it was totally unrelated to the dispute. The dispute was over a swimming pool. And it wasn't even the swimming pool that was encroaching, it was the side swimming pool. So we found this, you know, encroachment, you know, we just tripped over it while we were dealing with another issue.
It's funny.
It was really stupid.
Great stuff. I like the perspective of coming in kind of from the expert witness side of it, you know, and my thing that I always like to preach, make sure it's defendable before it leaves the door. So working it backwards that way is always awesome as well. So I appreciate that. That was cool. My
template started off at 1 page, and they say that aircraft flight manuals are written in blood because, like, a 1930 airplane has no manual. A 1950 airplane has like a 10-page manual. A 2024 plane has like a 3,000-page manual for this crappy little airplane. So, every time I get into a dispute and I find interesting things, I add it to my list to look for next time in the future cases. So I'm trying to prevent me making the same mistake as these poor souls have gotten themselves into in this negligence. So yeah, that's my system. I will give my template to Trent. You can share it with everybody. I don't care.
Yep.
And my only request is if anyone here is a pro user of Carlson Survey Civil 3D, I need someone to help me record some videos on the stage 1 process. And maybe Trent, you have somebody can help me or somebody else, but I currently have 2 drafters that are more civil and less surveying. I'm trying to get them up to speed and trained. So I need some assistance in recording some videos and some assistance, in the short term, recording some of these videos. So if anybody wants to help, $50 an hour, you get the whole manual and you finish it. Contact me. I need to get this thing written because I need to get stage 2 done. And I've been discussing this manual for like 2 years. And it just has to get done. So I'm tired of doing it all myself. So someone has to help me with Carlson Survey, get this recorded.
Keegan's good for Civil 3D, but you're looking for Carlson?
Well, I need
both,
like
or
I like Carlson because it has like the survey features built in. But if you can do the features I need, like localizations, coordinates and stuff in Civil 3D, be my guest.
Gotcha.
So if anyone can help, email me and wants to be the technician on the videos, email me, please.
Seems like Carlson themselves would want to put something out like that, but
well, I called the CAD girl who's the Carlson dealer, does training. She's like, I'm just super busy right now.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, I'm super busy right now. Like everybody's super busy right now. Like, okay.
Yeah. We need a
Call the guys at Carlson.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was thinking, like Luis or somebody like that. Like, that's what I'm surprised. Like, this would be right up surveying with Robert if he actually messed with Carlson. But
if anyone knows Carlson technicians, introduce me.
We will figure somebody out.
Okay.
I know that for sure. So
find me a victim.
Yep. What's that, Rob?
One more quick question, just regarding your title searches. So I'm in New Jersey, and I worked in the title insurance industry for many years before becoming a surveyor, or I guess going to school to be a surveyor. And the standard title search in my state is 60 years, which would not be long enough to get a lot of older boundary agreements and such. So do you do a 100-year search as a standard, or do you just kind of do the 60-year and then if you need more, get more? How do you navigate that?
The first thing I do is I never trust a title company. They're such, sometimes they're so good. Like they're so good, it surprises you. And sometimes they're so bad and they're make such stupid choices. I had a case where a title company ordered a title commitment for an Alta survey for an office building. It's like a 50,000 square foot office bill. It was a big sucker. And the title company missed 1 page out of like the 2,000 page commitment. Well, the 1 page was a reciprocal agreement for a parking lot. So the neighbor got to use the entire parking lot of this 50,000 square foot office building. And what did the client do? He sued the surveyor because the surveyor referenced the title commitment in the survey. So number one, never trust the title company. Go and pull the deeds yourself, everything all the way back. Second, I usually request as far back as you will go. So if they'll give me a 30-year, a 50-year, a 60-year, whatever, just whatever they have, pay for it. But ultimately, the title company is an irrational group of people who sometimes have amazing examiners and sometimes I don't know what planet they're operating on. So order the best you can, pay the money, and then do it yourself, because you may find things you don't expect. And But I like the title reports because they're a good start. Most of the time they have the plats. Most of the time they have something interesting. What happens if a boundary agreement is not recorded? Well, hopefully, okay, during stage 2, I walk around to all the neighbors, say, hey, I'm Tony Nettleman. Look at my vest, says my name. I'm surveying this area. Do you have anything in it? Like, number 1, do you have any surveys of your property? Number 2, can you show me any survey monuments? 1 out of 50 people say yes. If you ever want to find some good stuff on a property, find an old, rich white man. He knows his property location down to the centimeter. I was walking around in Fort Myers in Sanibel Island, and I knocked on this guy's door. He has like a real estate office as a joiner. And I said, do you have any land surveys of this property? I am striking out for monuments. He says, yes, sir, I do. This is my survey from 1971. You want a copy? Yes. Let me show you my monuments. Well, he showed me like 6 monuments he shared with the adjoining condo association. It saved me at least 2 days worth of work. It was amazing. So if a boundary agreement is not recorded, you better ask around. Hopefully the agreement is referenced on prior surveys. Hopefully the agreement, the property owners know about it, but finding unrecorded documents is pretty rare. So it can happen, but it's rare.
And I think title companies are in the same boat, you know, as surveyors. They're losing tons of talent as well, and so they haven't been as great lately. We've been finding the same situation where stuff's just getting missed. But
and sometimes
I was gonna say, it seems like some of the new stuff is only getting 20 years as well too. So
yep, and just buy the best you can. And like some title abstractors, like in Texas, they're serious. Like they'll go back like since to the Spanish Inquisition or something. But other ones, like 30 years, whatever, and they figure, oh, that's good enough. What do you need to think back for 30 years for? But it's a good starting point. Like maybe you'll find an agreement, maybe you'll find the plat, maybe you'll find a few deeds, whatever. It's a good starting point, and it kind of jump starts the research.
Yep. Good.
The neighbors living in 4 school buses might not be as willing.
To share the information.
That's why we have Junior.
Good stuff.
Oh man, yeah, I've gone too long again, 2 hours, but
I
there
love
you
it.
go.
You did amazing. It's
So
awesome.
if you have introduced me to Luis at Carlson, find me another Carlson or a civil 3D person. I've got to record this pretty soon because I'm writing a stage 3 report, and my AutoCAD guy is struggling with helping me connect the record and field data. So I need to find somebody ASAP. So if you know anyone, Trent or anybody else, email me and I'll introduce you guys to the current construction dispute. We'll record some videos.
Cool.
Thanks
Awesome.
again, everybody. I appreciate it.
Part 2 is February. Yeah, we'll find a date in February that works for Tony. So.
Yep. Hopefully we'll live long enough to enjoy part 3. It's gonna be a long time from now.
There you go.
Tony, when's your birthday?
November 27th.
All right. Hopefully I'll get a package to you before then.
Oh, you don't have to do that.
I got something you'll like.
Oh, okay, good.
There you go.
Thanks a lot, guys. I
Awesome.
appreciate it.
Thanks, Tony.
Have a good night and enjoy.
All right. Have a great week, everybody.